wanted me to ask you a question, what question would that be right now that you can answer?
Why are you where you are? Because I've done a lot of hard work.
Yeah. Cannot wait to introduce you right now. This amazing guest speaker, Stephanie Baker. She's also now going in the direction of becoming an educator, speaker, and in a global stage as well. What is it that you want to share with the listeners from a reality check right now?
First of all, don't ignore the basics. And I think a lot of people ignore the basics and they have a bit of like shiny object syndrome. The basics of how do you get from where you are to where you want to be? Well, it's internal work. Looking back on the conversation we had 2 years ago to where I am now, that's what I did was I got out of the box and I got out of the rat race and I got out of the this is what I'm supposed to do and went into this is actually how I'm going to make this happen. Yeah. None of that would have happened if I didn't like work on the basics, which is actually me.
If you could give the one key to the listeners to open their gates to their empire, what would that advice be?
Okay, mine would be
hello, my queens. We are back here for season 3 at Damn Good Studios. Shout out to my girls Sarah and Ben and Angus who are here in this space right now. And I love coming here for amazing episodes that we're about to uncover. But I want to give you guys a little bit of a background on what season 3 is about. I feel like it's so important to share the themes of the podcast. And for this theme for season 3 is all to do with the evolution. It's about taking the imperfect actions and just to go all in, even if it's a bit scary and you're not sure where it's all going to go. And this is what season 3 is about. The guest speakers that are just making big, bold moves. They're not just in it for the money, but it's about impact and drive and resilience. And with that comes authenticity. And sometimes we don't know where all of that is going to go. So I'm really, really looking forward for this next season to really bring you forward this taste of evolution. And with that in mind, I cannot wait to introduce you right now this amazing guest speaker who is a client of mine and also a dear friend, Stephanie Baker, founder of Within Reach, who has trained thousands of men and women across the globe. She has a team of 4 and she's also now going in the direction of becoming an educator, speaker, and in a global stage as well. We're so grateful to have you here, my beautiful queen. Hello, my love. How are you?
good. I'm really good. How are you?
I'm good. Can we let the listeners know what's happened? We have
yes.
It's Friday here at Damn Good Studios and well, it's 1:30. We were in 30 minutes in the episode and there was a power outage. Not anything to do with Damn Good Studios, but we've had to re-record. So we're feeling a little bit delirious.
I would say delirious is the right word.
Yes. So I hope you guys can feel the energy because again, what I started with around the imperfect actions and not everything has to be perfect. But I'm just grateful to have you here, my love, because I think the listeners are going to really enjoy hearing your story because you've obviously you were one of my first guest speakers for season 1 of Keys to the Queendom.
Yeah.
And you have evolved. This is all to do with the evolution. So when you hear the word evolution and evolving, how does that sound for you?
Well, it's an interesting one. It's a great question because like we were just talking before off air about how I did the first podcast episode and I forgot that I'd done it.
Yeah.
And then just to think back on the conversation we had then compared to now, I feel like a whole different person, but the exact same person at the same time. It's really strange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what comes up for you when you feel that?
Oh, it's excitement, it's a rush of energy, but it's also confusion because I'm thinking to myself, that was 2 years ago.
Yeah. So a lot has happened.
There's a lot that's happened in 2 years and it's a weird like timeline thing where you feel like so much has happened but nothing's happened. That's what I mean when I say I'm a different person but the same person, because I think so many people can relate to the fact that time ticks away and you don't realize how far you've come until it kind of gets pointed out and then you go, oh, true. Yeah.
And we spoke about that too because you are someone that I'm incredibly proud of and I say that to you time and time again and you're like, And I feel that this is a great reminder for you of how far you've come. But for the listeners who don't know, Steph season 1 version versus Steph season 3 version now, what's been the biggest growth and change? Like tell us what's been going on.
So much. I think if I could pick a theme, it would definitely be self-growth. But I feel like when I was speaking to you on that episode, I was only just starting to figure out who I was and what my voice was. Yeah. And now I'm so sure of who I am and what my voice is. And that's a really nice feeling. So I think if anything has happened, it's that. It's actually spending time to figure out who I am, what I actually bring to the table, what my message is. But most importantly, like, I actually know how to back myself now, you know?
I have a question. This is different. I've never done this before. Because you've spoken on podcasts and you're really building your authority, if you wanted me to ask you a question, what question would that be right now that you can answer? What do you really want the listeners to know right now?
Good question.
Yeah.
I would say, why are you where you are?
Let's start with that.
Okay. Because I've done a lot of fucking hard work.
Yeah.
And that's the question that I don't know, that's what came to mind. Because I think, I could go so many directions with this. Social media plays a massive role, I believe, in people seeing how things are perceived versus how they actually are.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, everyone wants this specific life, and it's the same. Every person you ask, they want freedom, they want fun, they want enjoyment, they want to live on their own timeline, etc. But is that a reality? Yes, but how do you get there? A lot of fucking hard work. And like, that's the thing, is people see, you know, for example, if we use the analogy of like an overnight success, nobody's an overnight success.
Yeah.
You have only just seen them now, but what have they been doing for the last 10 years before you even notice them? And yeah, it's an interesting one, because I feel like the amount of people that have supported me and backed me, there's been a lot of people that have, which I'm so thankful for, but not the people I thought it would be.
Yeah, interesting.
And so that's what comes up when you say, what question? I'm like, people need to hear the reality of what you actually need to do to get where you want to be. And the world's gone a bit soft.
Yeah. Let's dive into that, because you've built an incredible business, and I think a lot of people do have this perception that it was just kind of like an overnight thing.
Or like you were just born and meant to do it, and like you just know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Totally the opposite, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what is it that you want to share with the listeners from a reality check right now? What do they need to start doing if they're coaches right now who want to be, essentially, they look up to you, and I keep saying to you how proud I am of you, but if they were to go, I want to be like Stephanie Baker, this is what they need to do to get there?
Yeah, well, first of all, don't ignore the basics. And I think a lot of people ignore the basics, and they have a bit of like shiny object syndrome. So when I say don't ignore the basics, I'm more talking about, you know, the basics of how do you get from where you are to where you want to be? Well, it's internal work. It's don't ignore the self-development. It's also don't be afraid to work hard and to work outside of the box and be a little bit different or a little bit unusual, because that's how you stand out. Yeah. And so I think for me, again, looking back on the conversation we had 2 years ago to where I am now, that's what I did, was I got out of the box and I got out of the rat race and I got out of the, this is what I'm supposed to do, and went into, this is actually how I'm going to make this happen. Yeah. And with that, it was a perspective change, a mindset shift, but none of that would have happened if I didn't like work on the basics, which is actually me.
Yeah.
And so that's the first thing. But I think a lot of people also ignore the basics around, you know, how do you get from where you are to where you want to be? Consistency.
Yeah.
And it's like, if nothing's happening like this, then they just stop putting in the effort in the areas that work, or they don't continue the work even though it feels monotonous and it feels hard, because it doesn't feel good in the moment. And so many people are like, things just need to feel good and do what feels good. And it's like, well, actually, a lot of the time things don't feel good.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's worth it at the end. So like, get into the grit of it, you know?
Yeah. And let's dive into a bit more of that, because on season 1, I remember we spoke about, you started Queendom and then you finished up and you went to Bali. When you got back, you really prioritized building your company. So what did that look like for you?
Well, yeah. So I had remembered, like, you had spoken to me for months leading up to when I went away. And you were saying, you know, I think it's time for you to hire someone. And I was listening but not listening. And I was at this point where I was thinking to myself, well, you know, once I achieve X goal, then I'll hire someone. And it was very much a situation of me wanting to get to a certain point before I did the next thing. And, you know, logically that makes sense. You go, you know, for example, I want to make an extra $3,000 a month and then I'll hire someone. And logically you go, because that way that'll pay them and that will this and that will that. And so logically it makes sense. But then the thing that I've learned, and what I learned when I was away, because I was away and I came back and I went, Tim's right. I actually do need to hire.
Yeah.
And so I realized really quickly that I was looking at everything backwards, and this is what everyone else does, is they go, when I get to X, then I will action X, right? So for example, when I increase my revenue, then I'll hire. But in order for me to increase my revenue, I need to hire someone so that I can focus on the things to increase my revenue. And so people look at things backwards. And when I was in Bali and then I went to Singapore and I was just like traveling around having a bit of a, I need to find myself moment.
Which, how did that go?
Well, I'm not one that's very spiritual, but it was nice to take a break.
Yes.
I had this aha moment of, okay, I just think that this is the thing I need to do and I need to back myself so that I can actually get to that next level. Because I speak to people all the time about, hiring or getting a mentor, getting a coach or doing whatever you want to do. And people are always so scared about the next step because they want to get from where they are to somewhere else first.
Yeah.
But how do you get there? Well, you can't do it doing the same things that you're doing now. I hope that lands.
Yeah. It's funny though too, because as I said, like what you just said was there was no evidence. It was just this deep knowing. And then if it didn't work out, it was like, well, you're going to have to make it work. Right. And so when you made that decision, even though the evidence wasn't there or maybe the revenue goal was eventually getting there, like when you hired someone, what came for you from that experience? What were you able to achieve?
Well, first of all, I was able to see things through a different lens because I wasn't wearing all the hats. And coaches that wear all the hats and aren't willing to let go of the reins a little bit are the ones who have their clouded judgment, or judgment clouded, I should say, because you're wearing so many hats that you're living in a state of stress, which I know all too well. And when you're living in a state of stress and anxiety and, lack of sleep and you're not creative because your creative flow can't come out and you just become this mess, then nothing's actually working and you get to this standstill. So when I started to release that grip a little bit and I hired, first of all, I didn't have evidence it was going to work, but that's how I built the evidence. Because how do you build evidence if you don't do the thing first?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I did that. And don't get me wrong, I'm making it sound like it was a la-di-da. It was so hard.
Yeah.
It was so challenging. It took me a long time. As I said, you were telling me for months before I even did it.
Yeah.
And then I was in self-doubt and struggling mentally with it for weeks and weeks and weeks until eventually I wasn't.
Yeah.
But it allowed me to release that kind of that grip a little bit, which was clouding my judgment. And then I was able to look at things from a different perspective. And that's when I noticed a lot of growth in the business because I could see things from a lens that I wasn't looking in because I didn't have the energy to look in it before.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a big thing when it comes to building a business. People are so fixated on the money that they need to make, but at the end of the day, the freedom that it allowed you to think differently, to have a different perspective on content and marketing and sales, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Having a team now meant like, yes, you probably had to train them, but then you were able to then outsource and put your energy, which is the most important part of your business, in sales and marketing.
Yeah.
So now that you've hired 4 people, what has that been able to bring forward for your company now?
Well, I was just saying to you before that I feel I'm in a weird time at the moment, and anyone who's hired will understand this. Once you release the grip a little bit, you kind of go into this phase of, why do I feel like I have so much free time and like limited urgency because my team's looking after a lot of stuff now. But it feels very strange and I feel like, wait, I'm missing something. There's something like it's going to implode at any minute. That's how I feel like right now. But I know that that's not the case. What was the question?
what it has brought for you now? Like having a team of 4.
So it's brought a lot of things. First of all, the quality of the business is better because, again, you can imagine if you've got, like, for example, in fitness, if you've got a coach who's burnt out all the time, can they really give you the best quality service? No.
Yeah.
So now the quality of service is better. The quality of communication and also the systems and processes we follow is better. The ability for me to engage with more people is better. Like get more reach because I can focus on my sales and marketing, as you said.
Yeah.
So many things. Like I just think the business as a whole is a completely different business to when it started.
Yeah. Yeah. I know because a lot of my listeners look up to you. They come to me and they go, I want to be like Steph. And we spoke about
Do
grit.
they really?
Yeah, babe.
Because I feel like
I'm not making this up.
Sometimes I'm like, because I don't know. I don't get it. I think, like, don't get me wrong.
You're in...
Am I in my own bubble?
Maybe.
Yeah. Because I really appreciate it, but I don't get it. And don't get me wrong, like this is not coming from a place of like not being grateful, but I think I live in my head and I play this like tug of war in my mind all the time and I just live in my head because I'm always thinking of the next thing.
Yeah.
So then to hear that, it's so nice.
Yeah.
But I also like, part of me is like, nah.
Stop it.
No.
I mean, you and I had this conversation before about some of the things I'm working towards, as I showed you. And it's like, wow. And it's like, yeah, and it can happen.
Yeah.
And sometimes people look to you, and sometimes it's still us going, is that really me being able to do all these things now? Like, you've hired for people, you know, you've got clients coming to you, you're now speaking on stage, and a coach accelerator program that we're going to touch on. You know, if you were to give the audience right now, like, the 5 things that got you to where you are right now, what are those 5 things?
Well, the first one I would say is the belief in self.
Yeah.
That comes in time. And I think that's the biggest thing is anyone starting out, it's like the evidence thing we were just talking about before. Nobody starts out completely believing in their vision, I don't believe. And what I mean is, like, yes, you believe you can do it, but do you have that internal self-belief and like self-confidence that everything's going to work out? Like, no, we always have a bit of fear. Fear's healthy though. A bit of fear's healthy. But how do you build that? Well, you build it by going into the trenches and by like proving to yourself time and time again that you can do hard things.
Yeah.
And so that was the first thing. And that's just come with time. Like, I'm not any different in that area from the next person. I think we all can agree that it comes with time.
Yeah.
And so that was the first thing. And if you had asked me 2 years ago where it was not like that. I was still trying to figure out who I was then. And so that's the first thing. The second one is kind of piggybacked on that, which is finding your voice and using it. And I say this all the time, like, so many coaches just blend.
Yep.
They blend in and they blend into the mix and they do what everyone else is doing and they think that's going to get them clients and success. And it's like, well, actually, what makes you any different from the next one if you're just copycatting? So that was something I struggled with for a really long time, because if I even look back to when I first started, I've been doing this 7 years now.
Yeah.
When I first started, the first even probably 3 years, I was very much just copying everyone else and doing what I thought I had to do. And that's what led me into doing things like I was in bodybuilding and that was not aligned with me. And I went through some other things in my life that I realized later wasn't actually what I wanted, because I was copycatting other coaches and thinking that's what I needed.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for it, because I don't think I would have found my voice without it.
Yeah.
But once you get to a moment of, oh, that's my voice, and you then start to use it to your advantage, that's when you start to stand out. And I've had the most, I would say, like, growth since I've started to not be afraid to use it. That's the second point. Oh my God, there's so many. The third one is, as I said, allowing yourself to release control.
Yes. That's with the whole team thing, everything as well.
That is, yeah. And again, like, it's none of what I'm saying is easy, and none of what I'm saying I want people to think just happened for me. Like, it's all been an internal battle the entire time. But releasing control and allowing people and trusting people to do the job that you can do. You know, some people can even do it better than you can.
Yeah.
I've got my support coach, Roberta, and I just want to give her a shout out because
shout out, girl.
Yeah, because she honestly,
she's amazing.
She's amazing. She's a gun, and I personally think she's better at some things that she does than I ever was.
Yeah.
But that's not a hit to the ego, because I'm like, great, I've hired someone that can do my job better.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Now she can handle that. I don't have to do it.
Yeah.
But I also don't have to worry about it. So it's trusting that people actually are on the journey with you and releasing that control. That's 3. God, they're really big points.
Queen, how often have you said, I spent my whole life studying, I've been to school my whole life, and I've actually learned nothing that teaches me the tools and strategies to build a successful business in the outside world. You've probably spent thousands of dollars on courses, or you've heard fake news from business gurus. Well, I'm here to give this incredible news to everyone here right now, that this is Queenstream University. Get out of debt and actually start making money in the online space, knowing and having the foundations to build a successful business. Now, I'm talking because I have gone through the trenches. I have been a fitness coach, built my online business as a pro athlete, and now I am a business coach. You'll go from having absolutely no idea what your business is through, in the 8 weeks, learn the foundations of knowing what your purpose is, your vision and mission, and also understanding your business values with the execution to know what that business is. You'll also learn branding, social media, content strategy, marketing, and more importantly, how to sell. With Queenstream University, it'll cut out the bullshit and remove all the fluff and get you working specifically on your business so you can execute this in 8 weeks to get ready to learn. I wanted you to have something where you get to access something straight away, where you get to fast track your growth, as well as remove any doubt, any overwhelming sensation or stress, or the question that everyone seems to ask, where do I begin? With Queendom University, you'll be able to build wealth, freedom, and at the end of the day, be an entrepreneur and be able to say, I have finally built my own thing, my own business. And I've stopped making money for someone else, and I'm now making money for my own empire. Queendom University.
Yeah.
That's great. Did you want just 3?
I think they're the ones that are like intuitively coming up.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of others, and I think there's so many things you could touch on, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, the biggest thing that I've noticed, because obviously being in Queendom, the voice thing was big for you. And I think that was something that I felt, I don't know what the pinnacle moment was for you, because it wasn't like you were trying to copy anyone else. I think it was just owning that you are someone that is serious, direct, you love education, and you're not, you bring this up all the time. Like you're like, but I'm not you, Tam. I'm not weird and quirky.
Yeah,
and that.
I remember the conversation we had when you first started like kind of guiding me towards using my voice, and I just didn't really grasp it because I was thinking that's the way you stand out, and obviously I look up to you a lot, and that was how you were standing out, and I was seeing a lot of traction from that. So again, going back to the copying thing, I was then like, is that what I'm supposed to do? But then I thought, but that's not me. And like, it was good that I recognized that because I didn't want to be that. And that's not to say it's not a good thing to do. It's just not me.
Yeah.
But I really remember a conversation. Do you remember when I was at your place and we were filming those reels? I had like my long blonde hair.
Yes.
It was like years ago, right? Maybe 2 years ago. Probably around the time actually we did the first podcast.
Yeah.
And you said to me, what do you actually want to say? And you kept saying it because I was like, filming these talking reels, and we knew there was more in it that I could have said, or a different way I could have showed up, but I couldn't work out what it was. It was fear.
Yeah, interesting.
And it was, I knew how I wanted to be, but I was so scared of what the backlash would be if I became that. And so I was holding back. And the second I stopped holding back, I was like, oh, I found my voice now.
Yeah. And so what happened now since you've been able to bring in your voice?
Well, I definitely feel, because my goal is to be a bit more of an authority in the industry, and I feel like that's slowly happening, which I am happy to say. And like, that's the thing. This is how we stand out, is we actually become who we are, and we speak on topics that we truly believe in. And I think the other thing, so many people are scared to jump on social media, say an opinion and get backlash.
You have had that too.
Yeah, I have had that. I think the biggest piece of advice I would say there is nothing bad's going to happen. It's intention's everything. If you're going into everything with the right intention to be kind, to be helpful, to be educational, and then just releasing the fact that some people aren't going to agree with you, and that's okay. It's
beautiful.
But I remember the first time that I got backlash, I was messaging you. I was like, fuck, do I like delete this?
I was like, this is great.
And I was like deleting comments and everything because I was like, what if everyone else sees that and then they think the same thing? And I like bought into it. And then I thought, hang on a minute, why am I letting other people's triggers affect me? That's not on me. So yeah, that was a massive point, was when I realized that I was actually just holding myself back from being the direct person that I am.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've witnessed this for the last 2 years too. And now that you're stepping into what you're building right now, tell the listeners what that's brought for you. Like, actually not what it's brought for you. What made you choose this direction?
Okay, well, I know, because as I said, I've been doing this 7 years, which is a long time for some and a really short period for others. But there's a lot that I've learned on that journey, and I know that so many coaches struggle with building themselves up in the industry because we can all agree the course doesn't teach you much.
Nope.
And
AIF taught me shit all about sales.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, they teach you the bare minimum to get you through your course.
Probably not said that.
No, that's all right. We'll cut that out. Yep. Or maybe we won't. We'll see. But yeah, like the course teaches you the bare minimum for you to get your qualification. Yep. Personally, I believe the course is a bit outdated these days. Yep. But even so, it skims on everything. Just enough for you to not seriously injure anyone. All of the actual lessons and education you get is by going out into the field, but there's nothing between getting your course and going out on your own. The only thing that's in between that is you going and working for someone in a gym. But then even then, getting mentoring and getting coaching and getting the right like education, it's few and far between.
Yeah.
I personally was really lucky. I went to a group fitness space where there was a woman that was running the studio that basically was my mentor for the first few years that I was in the industry, and she taught me a lot. But not everyone has that luxury.
Yeah.
And so there's this gap in the market on like, you come out of your course and then what?
Yeah.
You either have to figure it out on your own and it takes a long time, and then you become someone that you don't know who you are, and you're kind of going between the motions and copying everyone else and trying to figure out your shit. Or there's these business coaches who are either outside of your price range, or maybe they're in your price range but don't know your industry.
Or maybe haven't even had
a business.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was going to get there.
So it's fine.
can I just say, like, not to rant, but I will. I don't get the concept of a business coach teaching you business when they've never owned a business except for that one. Like, I don't get it. And then they charge like 30, 40 grand to teach you business. They've never owned a business other than the one they're trying to teach you from. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
The reason I started with you have a fitness background. You've come from the fitness space. So I knew you knew the industry. And then also you had a business before this one.
Yeah.
And so that was why I was drawn to you, apart from your personality and those sorts of things, right? But also, how many business coaches out there understand the fitness space?
Yeah.
Not many.
Yeah. And that's why you've seen a gap in the market and you've leaned into it. And now this is a really great direction that you're going in. But two, like, you're not just bottling yourself in one sort of space where you've limited yourself. You've said at the start, I wasn't just a fitness coach. And you even said, I'm now owning who I am, which I'm different, and I'm owning my power.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that a lot of we spoke about people who look up to you can see that you're opening up an opportunity for women to work with you.
Well, this is the thing, right? I think when you come into the fitness space, again, it's a copycat theme, and it's not anyone's fault. It's just like, that's kind of human nature, is we like to be part of the crowd. Like that's a safety mechanism, right? And so we see the fitness space and we realize that the fitness space, the extent of the fitness space is being a PT, working for someone else, owning your own business, being an online coach. That's it. Nobody sees beyond that. And nobody's like, oh, what can I do with this? And then they look up to people who are really well known in the industry that are like really big names and go, oh, they're just like there because they're famous, or because
I hate when that happens
they're
too.
well known, or because, you know, they've just been in the industry a long time. And it's like, well, actually, they're the people that stood out because they did different to everyone else. They went against the grain. And I just want everyone to know, like, if you have a big dream in the fitness space, there's actually no limitation.
Yeah.
And so many people think, oh, I'm just going to be a coach and that's it.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to, that's great, but it's not all you get to do. You know, like, we've started running events, which I never thought I would do in the fitness space. And like, that's really cool.
But it's opening up that thing that we longed for a really long time in our world. Was we went through COVID, everyone wanted to build an online business. Then coaches realized they feel really alone because they're just in front of a screen. Whereas now what you've brought in is education, fitness, and a community. Like, this is amazing.
Yeah. I think, again, it's just like pinpointing the gap, but also I do have to clarify with this as well. I do think that some people are entrepreneurs at heart, and they're kind of like born with these different workings of the brain. Like, you just think differently. And then there's people who like the idea of going into business and they're just happy to do the bare minimum. And there's nothing wrong with either.
Yeah.
But I think, like, when I look at my perspective, or even where you're at, I feel like we're just wired very differently to some people.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to admit that. I think being a bit strange is okay.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. It's part of what my message is at the moment for what we're building, which I can't say too much just yet. But it's, chasing the imperfect actions. It's for the misfits, the different, outgoing, crazy people out there who maybe have been told that they needed to be like everyone else, and we're not like everyone else, right?
Yeah.
And I actually have my beautiful partner who works with me. He's at a level of becoming an entrepreneur, but he's not how we are, where we are like, the next thing that we see, we just take it by the balls and we just grab it, right? And you saw that opportunity. But for the listeners right now who are like in that sort of, like, I'm navigating through fear, yet I know that I'm made for something more, or maybe they want to sort of dive into more about working with you. What is something that you'd say to them if they're at that sort of crossroad right now?
Well, I guess the first thing you need to know is, what is it that I do? So I can cover that. So Within Reach, which is the company that I own, is a fitness business, customized training, nutrition. It's online. It's also community based, and we do a lot of in-person stuff. We also have events, which is pretty cool. The events, the Fitness Accelerator. We ran our first one. Tam, you guest spoke at it. That was really cool. And that there was like an awesome, that was great. It was definitely bringing the world of like health, fitness, and mindset together. Because this is the other thing that I will say, and this is what's led me to where I'm going. Coaches come into the industry to be a fitness coach, like training, nutrition, right? And they're not, a lot of them don't have the qualifications or like the knowledge on how to help people with their mindset. To be fair, we weren't taught that. Like, you come into your course and then you come into the industry and you just think, oh, I'm going to give someone training in nutrition. But majority of the reason that they get to their goal or they don't as clients is their ability to take control of their mindset. And that's another gap. So these events that we're running and the way that we're going with connecting people together is being able to bring the mindset stuff in.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. That's one of the disconnects in the industry is like, you can teach someone training in nutrition till you're blue in the face. But if they don't have the relationship with self and the mindset to go with it, how are they going to follow through?
Yeah.
So that's why we do our events, to like educate people in that area. And we also bring people into our space to further help them in that area too.
Yeah.
And I personally have done a lot of work in that area to help my clients. That's why I think personally our retention rate's really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so I think it's just tip for coaches. Like, if you're not in the self-development space, or at least like learning how to help people with their mindset within your scope of practice, get onto that, because that will be the thing that will set you apart, because you want your clients to get results, right?
Yeah.
But then the other thing that we're doing is we're starting to help coaches with that. So going back to when I started in the industry, you know, I spent so much time not knowing who I was, how to do things, what my brand voice was, like how to stand out, content, like I knew nothing. And so going back to what I was talking about before with like, you've got these business coaches or you've got these like people that can guide you, but can they really guide you? Because you want to walk the path that's already been walked.
Yeah.
And that's why like I joined you, right? Because I knew that you'd been in this fitness space, you get it. But there's nothing that's bridging the gap between getting out of a course and being able to build a successful business and find all of that.
Yeah.
So that's what we're now doing.
Yeah.
Is we're bridging that gap and we're helping coaches actually be able to build their businesses out. And we're helping them with the simple things like, you know, how do you even register your business online?
I was going to say paying yourself, like, well, knowing what to charge.
Yourself?
Yeah.
Like this is all the stuff we help with.
Yeah.
Like, how do you know what to charge? How do you know what platform to use? There's so many fitness platforms. How do you know which one to use?
And everything has changed since when I was a fitness coach, and where you're going, this is really great, is because you've done the work.
Right.
You've built the company, and now you can also then step away from not within reach, but now focus on this area, and people are going to be wanting to work with you because essentially this doesn't get taught at all.
No, and this
You know
is the thing, like it doesn't get taught. And that's people go, well, what platform do I use? Oh, I'll just use this one because this is what such and such is using. And it's like, but did those elements of the platform even work with what you want? And then they go, well, I don't even know what I want. And it's like, well, you don't even know what your business is then.
Do you find that they just get into the wanting to become a coach based on they think that's what they want, or they just don't know how to put together a business based on what they love to teach and what their niche is and things like that? There's so many loopholes there.
I think most coaches come into the industry because they love health and fitness, and that's the extent of it.
Yeah.
And they don't realize in order to be a coach, you actually need to be a business owner.
Yeah.
There's a very big difference between being a coach and being a business owner.
Yes.
And so this is why the industry of coaches is like, in terms of the quality, it's pretty bad. There's so many great coaches, there's so many terrible coaches. The great coaches have learned along the way because they've had the experience over time. Like nobody comes into this just knowing what to do.
Yeah.
But the quality of coaches is terrible, which is a bad thing, because we're like, if you have a bad coach, if you're someone who's like out of their scope of practice or not knowing how to run a business, not only is it bad quality and a bad taste in the mouth for like the clients who aren't getting what they are paying for, but also this is people's health.
Yeah.
We're affecting people's health if we're not coaching properly.
Yeah.
And that's not okay with me, by the way.
I can tell.
Yeah. I just think
I stand for this.
That's right. And that's why we're doing this, because like I know that this is actually my passion. Like health and fitness is my passion. But I can tell that this is actually where I want to go, and I know that my personality and what I believe in will work really well for this. But also, one of my biggest goals is to bring the quality of coaching up in the industry.
Hey, beautiful kings and queens, are you right now in a space where you're ready to take action and build your business, yet you struggle where to begin? You're feeling stuck and overwhelmed with all the things you need to do when it comes to building a business. Build the business of your dreams in the online space and be in the arena of all the incredible, great humans out there that are building 7 to 8 figure businesses. Now, the foundations that I truly believe in that you are going to learn through this membership is sales, marketing, content creation, social media, money mindset, and of course, branding. Now, all of this will be accessible for you to be learning what is currently hot right now in the market and how you can create your own business and build a successful business in the online space. All you have to do right now is DM Empire in my Instagram or email myself and my team, and we will get the ball rolling so you can have your empire and start making moves in the online space.
And I think this is going to be a part of that.
That's changed since I spoke to you not too long ago. I think that's been something you've leaned into.
Well, because I was trying to figure it out. I'm like, I know what I want to do, but I can't work out why it means so much to me.
Yeah.
And then I worked it out. I was like, oh, it's actually because I want people to not have to go through the things I've been through if they can help it, but also I want the coaching industry as a whole to just get better.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful, babe. And that just means it's like you're not just making it about you. You actually are here to make a greater impact and to serve. And if we can have all of us succeed and all of the coaches that come together that are good be taught how to do that, then everyone listening right now, I'd highly recommend you guys work with Steph on this.
Oh, that's sweet.
We'll drop in a description in that box. What do you feel like the biggest questions people come to you to ask that you could see is common that you'd think, I can't believe people don't know about this?
Yeah, well, simple things like what's the best way to give a client a check-in?
Really?
I'm like, well, I guess there's so many ways you could do it, but like the way that people think to do it is you jump on a call with them. Okay, that's great, but what happens when you want to scale your business? Or they'll go, oh, what platform do you use? Like so many coaches see like snippets that we put on our social media of my platform and they go, what platform do you use? It's really interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why does it matter what I use? Because like, don't you want to know what functionalities of the app you have for your, because the reason because just so you know, I'm not a gatekeeper. I use Everfit.
And it's good.
Yeah. But the reason that I use Everfit is because the functionalities worked with exactly what I envisioned for my service. So many coaches don't even know that. And so they go, what platform do you use? And I'm like, well, it shouldn't be about the platform I use. It should be about what's the functionalities that it can give me so that I can have a good service. Or they go, how do I know what to charge?
Yeah.
Or they'll go, how do you give technique feedback? Like, why do you do it through video? Or most of them, how do I don't know what to post on social media.
Yeah, interesting.
Like content. I've got no idea where to start. We have a lot of conversations in our, on both of our Instagram accounts actually. And a lot of coaches, particularly the ones starting out, they're like, I'm just trying to find my feet with content. I don't know how to do it. You know?
I think as well, like, based on the evolution of, which is the theme for this episode right now, social media is changing. And I think
it's always changing.
Yeah. But it's gone in a really interesting thing right now. And I've actually been speaking to my mentor about it. What worked back in when I started is very different now. And the thing that's really big is relationship marketing. And I think you do this really, really well.
Well, do you know what's funny? You say relationship marketing and that goes over my head. I'm like, what does she mean by that? So if I do it well, I'm glad.
You're doing it.
What's your definition of relationship?
It's essentially not just being someone that cold DMs. And you're building value on your platform of social media. Your content speaks to building relationships. You're connecting with your audience. A lot of the times, and this is what I love talking about, and you do this so well, and this is what you've taught your team. This is what you're going to be teaching people too. It's like conversations on social media is a must.
Yeah.
You're building a business, and so that's building a relationship with your audience, and you do this really well. And again, this is the direction that is right now going. And I think what happens is people think that when they post on social media, they should just leave it and they don't have to do anything.
No, but they go, I'm going to make a post, and then they go, okay, now I'll just wait. I'll wait for all of my clients to come.
That's so me. Yeah.
And it's like, well, actually, as I said earlier, you don't wait for opportunity, you go to it.
Yeah.
So when you, that's actually, do you know what's funny? That quote has been in my head for weeks now.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but it keeps coming up. And I think it's because I spent so long waiting for opportunity to come and just going like, oh, I've just put one post out, that's enough. Or I've just done this, that's enough. And it's like, what else can you do? No, it's actually not. It's like, and I think as well, with social media specifically, my take on it is there's so many different things, like it's changing all the time.
Yeah.
If you can have a bit of it all,
then
I think you're sitting pretty well. Like if you can do a bit of DM, you can do a bit of like quality posting, you can do a bit of education, jump on a few stories, connect with people, be on all platforms where possible. Like that's enough eventually to get the ball rolling, but you've got to create that, what's the word that I'm looking for? Momentum. Yeah.
That's a big one too. And I think this kind of leads me to my other question, because obviously you've gone in the last 2 years of what you've built within Queendom and within Reach, and now doing the Coach Accelerator, also wanting to build events. What's kept you with the momentum? What's been your thing?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Because I've always been like, I want more. That's why when people are like, you're doing a great job, I'm like, shut up. No, I'm not.
I'm proud of you. Shut up.
Leave me alone. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. But yeah, that's the thing. I think it's because you're always looking at the next step.
Yeah.
I think what I would say is if you'd asked me 2 years ago what this was going to look like, I would have been like, there's no way I'd do any of that. Because again, what I was saying before, you come into the industry and you think that coaching is the only thing, like the limits are not there.
Yeah.
It's limitless in the industry. But I never expected that either. Like I came into the industry, same thing. I was like, I'll just be a coach. Like that's what you do. And then this has kind of evolved over time and I've let it just happen.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like snowballed over time. I never had the intention to run events. I never had the intention to build the Coaches Accelerator. I kind of just let things play out and it just got me here.
I had someone say to me the other day that it's when things come to you and an opportunity presents itself, like that's what happened with you. And you went, wow, okay, this feels really good. And for you with events, that was, I think, going to the personal development space.
Yeah.
You spoke at my event and you're really good at speaking on stage. I think that, again, like it's about the evolvement. It's about just owning that there's more in you. And every time something presents itself, you're like, I'm going to go for it, as opposed to be like, fuck this. Should I even do it? Nah.
That's why I think like going in with an open mind is a great idea because you can know what you want and also not know what you want.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I knew I wanted to be a coach, which I am, but I also had no idea that this was the next thing I was going to do. So I think just like letting it play out and being okay with the fact that what you think you want isn't always what you actually want. Yeah.
Yeah, I've made some choices where I thought that was something I was meant to do, and I learnt very quickly that it was a mistake. But I think in that there's beauty when we do make mistakes and challenges, which I feel like is my second last question for you, because I think as part of evolvement, as part of this season 3, is as we evolve, it's really important that we look at what we have learnt, whether it's this year, whether it's the last 2 years, what some of the mistakes, lessons you've really learnt that you feel like the listeners really need to hear when it comes to them stepping into evolvement?
Well, I think the first one is like, it just keeps coming back to this control thing. I like control. I think we all do because it's predictable. And so one of the biggest things I've learned is just to be okay with releasing control and knowing that things aren't always going to work out exactly how you planned. You can't do everything and wear all the hats. And like honestly, this is the biggest thing when it comes to control. The longer you wear all the hats, the less you're going to move.
That's big.
That was a huge one for me. And it kind of hit me on the head a little bit. I didn't realize that until I realized that. And I was like, oh, I could be so much further ahead if I let go, you know? So that's one thing that I've learned is like release the control and just be okay with the fact that as long as you've got a direction and a plan and you trust that it will work out, however it plays out or where you end up is exactly where you're supposed to be. Yeah. Because I do definitely believe in like the everything happens for a reason. So that's a big one. Another one in terms of that, I would say like learning, like just to go deep within who you are to like find your voice. Yeah. Because I spent so long being held back and not like even considering the fact that maybe people would actually listen to what I have to say and maybe people actually care about what I have to say, and you just think you're just another number in the universe and like why does what you think matter? Yeah, that's beautiful. But I like to think of myself as a voice for those who can't use theirs. You know, that there's a lot of people that want to say things that just don't have the, I would say like the strength or like the mindset or the whatever it is to do it. You know, maybe they're just too fearful. Yeah. And it's like if I can be a voice for those people, maybe that's also going to make an impact. And I think like when you don't do things, how does that affect people? You know, people go, oh, if I do this, how will it affect people? But also if you don't, how will it affect people? You know, like hopefully something I says lands, or hopefully it makes someone move, or it makes someone, you know, do the thing that they're afraid of, or I don't know. I just feel like they're probably the biggest things that I've learned.
Yeah. That's beautiful, babe. I do have a final question before the final question, because I think it's really great for the listeners to see what are you going to be celebrating at the end of the year? What's the thing that you're working on that you can go, fuck yeah, I did it?
Well, do you know what's funny is I get so anxious if I think too far ahead. Yeah. So I struggle with this because like as much as this is the thing, I know where I want to be in 12 months. I know where I want to be in 5 years. But when I think about when I think about the timeline, it's like it's a weird one because I know where I want to be, but I also don't know where I want to be. Does that make sense? It's a really strange. It's like my brain can't comprehend anything past tomorrow. So, but the idea and the intention that I would be celebrating at the end of the year, obviously, like the growth in the business, more events, a growing podcast because we've got our own podcast. And honestly, do you know what's funny? Shout out to Lloyd Ross here.
Lloyd, we love you.
Because I'm in Lloyd's program.
Yeah.
And he's amazing. And so we actually did this exercise on one of our group calls the other day where he actually asked us all to write down an ideal day in our life. Like we said, we had 5 minutes and we had to write down the ideal day in our life. And it was about like, there's no limits. What would you do? And so everyone's sharing and they're like, I would ride my jet from America over to, England, and I would go for breakfast in Paris, and like these crazy ideal days. And I'm like, this is great. But I'm sitting here going, wow, that's not me, you know? And everyone's coming up with all of these things that are totally the opposite of what they would be doing if they had an ideal day.
Yeah.
And do you know what mine was?
What was it?
My ideal day had everything to do with being able to go for my morning walk by the beach, going into an office with all of my staff, working really hard, going and sorting out some I was like envisioning me going to this massive auditorium with 5,000 people for this event that I was going to run.
Love that.
It was all business.
Yeah.
And then go home and like spend time with my partner on the lounge. And I'm like, a lot of that stuff is stuff that I'm working towards or already doing. And so when you're like, where do you want to be at the end of the year and what do you want to celebrate? I just think it's an interesting correlation that so many, there's like 60 people in that call. And so many of them were sharing these crazy wild dreams. And I'm like, mine seems so small, but it must just be because that's actually what I want.
Yeah, it's not though, so small. And it's so close too.
Yeah.
I reckon it's like now.
Because that's the thing.
Happen.
It's like, I don't want the fancy planes and the cars and like I've just never been that sort of person.
Yeah.
But
that's what I love about you.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not a material person. I just like to, look at me today. I didn't even brush my hair before I got here. Just like.
But she's on brand.
Yeah. Well, sort of.
That was weird.
Sort of. I'm not sure about that one. But, I just like put my hair up in a clip. I
like simplicity with you.
Yeah.
That's what I see, but very polished in the structure of your business, and you do give a fuck about your community, and you do want to educate people, and I see that 5,000 people on stage.
That's what I mean. That's why I'm like, by the end of the year I want to be celebrating the same things I'm celebrating now. Like I don't have an ideal like this is what I need to do, because I feel everything I'm doing is working towards that end goal anyway. Yeah. I hope that answered the question.
It did. It was beautiful.
Oh, good.
The final question is, if you could give the one key to the listeners to open their gates to their empire, what would that advice be?
Okay. Mine would be find your voice and use it. And can I give two?
Yes.
That's the first one. Find your voice and use it was the initial one that came up. And I think this has come up because so many people are scared to use their voice, and people actually care and want to hear what you have to say. I know I do. Like when I see coaches like sharing stuff on social media or sharing stuff about who they are or what they truly believe in, I'm like, yes, so good, because not enough people are doing it.
Yeah.
So again, it's like lead from the front. If I do it, I'm hoping that it encourages other coaches to do it too. So like use your voice, because I promise you, if you tag me in it or if you share it with me or if I see it, I will love it and I will comment and I will like it, because I love when I see people doing that.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. And I think it really makes a massive impact for those around you.
Yeah.
But the second one is do then learn. Because
damn girl,
I just think what we were talking about before, where I was saying, like people wait till they have X before they action something, going back to the hiring thing. I was talking about how I thought that I needed to get to a certain revenue goal before I hired, but in reality I needed to hire to get to the revenue goal. It was backwards. It's the same thing. Like people want to learn, but then they never do anything. And it's like, how do you know that that's actually going to help you? How do you know you're going to be able to move forward? How do you know that you actually know what you think you know?
Yeah.
So many just kind of moments where people, I think, hold themselves back because they want to learn all the things and know it first.
Yeah, I'll wait till I'm confident in this. I'll wait when I'm qualified, it's like.
So I think people need to do, because that's actually how you learn, and that's how you'll know if you're making the right steps moving forward.
I'm so proud of your season 3, my love.
Thank you.
So proud of your involvement, and I'm really excited to see when you will come back to this episode, well, not this episode, this podcast, because I think there's going to be some more expansion and growth within you, and I'm so fucking proud of you.
Can I just say as well though, like I would not be where I am without you, and I mean it, because it's. Why am I getting emotional? I do this every time. You guys should have seen me at Tam's event. I would have bawled my eyes out. It's so bad, but honestly, I mean it. Like I couldn't do this without you. So
it's all been you, my love.
Well, it hasn't. It's been a team effort. But I say this to my clients all the time. We give you the plan, you action the plan, it's teamwork. So we're a pretty good damn team, I
We're
think.
a fucking good team.
I think so.
Cheers to that, honey.
Cheers.
Yes.
It's only
What a day. It's not even
sparkling water.
alcoholic, I know.
It'd be nice to have a glass
Does
of wine
look
right
like
now.
it. Do we want to? Anyway,
so.
we should. My beautiful queens and kings listening, this is Keys to the Queendom. I am your host, Tamara Meyer. Really excited and really grateful for Stephanie Baker to be here. We will be back with another episode next week. Until then, stay classy, San Diego. No, we'll see you soon. Bye.
Amen for playing big today with authenticity, because here is the thing. It's not about being perfect on stage, perfectly put together, which is important, yes. It's about being who